Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Tillamook County Commissioners Board briefing. It's July 15th, 2028. We have a few topics today. Um, Pretty excited about the first one, and they're already seated here. So I want to welcome Jacob Harth and Ben Gates from the Bay Ocean Oyster House project. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Jacob, should I kick us off?
Sure. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, great. It's a real pleasure to be here today. Thanks for inviting us. We wanted to share a project that's happening in our community. So over down Bay Ocean Road at 1985 Bay Ocean Road Northwest is the old Harris Oyster House. And Jacob and I and two other business partners purchased the property a couple years ago and have been working with the planning department and others to bring about something we're really excited to share that's preserving a really important working waterfront asset. Maybe before we go into like a little bit more about the project, just some introductions on who we are. So again, my name's Ben Gates. I own a company called Urban Patterns, and we work with folks across the Northwest, particularly in Oregon. I'm a community developer and architect, and we've worked to preserve and improve some of Oregon's kind of working assets. The Minot River Lodge in Eastern Oregon, an old hunting lodge. We restored a foundry in Portland, Oregon called the Red on Salmon Street. Some of these projects are important food system projects. The Red on Salmon Street supports Oregon's ranchers, farmers, and fishermen, helping to add value to those products and bring it to market. And that building alone supports 150 entrepreneurs. So these are the kind of projects we're really passionate about. And so when an opportunity came along to purchase the old Oyster House, having met Jacob years before and seen some of the care that he brings to creating relationships with fishermen and bringing products to the community, the project seemed like a perfect fit. And I want to ask Jacob to introduce himself a little bit and we can share more about the project.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Jacob Harth. I'm a chef and also a commercial harvester, seafood harvester in Oregon. Originally, I grew up here in Cloverdale several years of my childhood before moving down to Southern Oregon. My dad is a commercial fisherman and a logger. And I've been working specifically with Oregon seafood for the last 10 years. I opened a restaurant in Portland in 2017 that was specifically focused on just products directly from fishermen in Oregon. And during the pandemic, the restaurant closed, but we moved the operation out to the old Navore Shellfish Farm space in Netarts and kind of had the first experience of being out here at the source. And I think that moment, we kind of had a residency there for about a year. And I think that moment really solidified for me the not only the opportunity, but also just a desire to be here permanently and to bring that kind of experience to this area to showcase everything that this area has to offer. I think for me, the statistics are super clear. 90% of our seafood is exported and 90% of everything consumed here is brought from somewhere else. And what I've learned is, that we do have amazing small producers here. It's not because they don't exist. It's because there's a lack of infrastructure. And I think that I've seen an opportunity for my role to kind of be someone who can help connect the dots between all of these small producers and a larger audience of Oregonians and, hopefully people traveling from outside the state as well. And I think that, the really interesting thing about this property and what spoke to us is that its current infrastructure and its ability to allow us to do that.
Great.
The Harris's sent some photos to us recently. They're really excited to hear about the new owners. They sold the property to a previous buyer from which we bought the property from. And some amazing photos there, including a letter from the governor who is commending their oyster stew. There's, I think, an opportunity in old oyster houses to bring it back the production and also the retail activities that have historically happened there. And so we saw that happen, with the Harris's, not only harvesting oysters, but selling them and also things like oyster stew. So we're bringing that back with a quick service restaurant and also a retail storefront that will be open 7 days a week. We've really kind of had the benefit of like working with the planning department here to kind of walk through those kind of special requirements because we're close to a important estuary. And also the working waterfront allows some things, but in order to add a restaurant, there's special permissions that are required. And so we've gone through that process, and we recently had the opportunity to pick up our building permit. And so we've started improvements there. And we're really excited to open up by May of next year. So we're just on the path, and we're really excited about the investment that we're making. It's a little scary too, because we have a working waterfront that serves not only, what we're planning on these new uses, but there's 10 commercial fishermen and who use that dock space. And so, one of the tasks that will be ahead of us is just, how do we best preserve a working waterfront, with all of its needs. So we are just really thankful to be working with both kind of our state and local partners to do that.
Great. Jacob, tell me a little bit about the building, because I had the pleasure of going out there and getting a
Mhm.
tour. I've never been in that building. Just for folks that may not know what this is, it's right next to Mimolus Boat Ramp, right next to the county boat ramp. It's the old Orsa House, everybody. It's got corrugated siding.
Yeah.
Cool old building. I've never been in there 30 years of living here. So tell me a little bit about what you found, because it was an interesting tour.
Yeah, so the building is incredible, and it was built in 1936, I believe, and served as, many different versions of it have served this family's, the Tillamook Bay Oyster Company was the name of their company, and it several generations of Harris's were operating that. We've traced it back to like the original Oyster Act that was in 1931 in Oregon, that they were like one of the first families that got a lease. So they've been using that property ever since. And the building is interesting, and it's also really challenging. I think Ben could speak more to that as an architect. But I mean, we were just walking through today with the contractor and some subs to just figure out what the best approach to it is, because it seemed as if the family has done a lot of the work on it themselves, and there's it's very much like a working dock building with over piers and pilings, and has a lot of improvements done on it over the years, and different buildings kind of added on. It's a really, really high character building, but also a lot of challenging improvements. Yeah.
Yeah, can you speak to maybe the docks and the outdoor space and the other amenities that make it interesting?
Yeah, I mean, the building alone is not the only asset. I mean, it's waterfront dependent commercial, so it has basically a marina, and the docks support the guide fishermen during the salmon season here. But also the property is, there's several things about the property that spoke to me based off my experience at Navor, that of things that we had challenges with there. I mean, there's a really nice amount of parking there, which is also adjacent to the boat launch, which kind of has additional parking for overflow for us. That was a challenge at the space in Netarts, just because, like, I think if you do have a large draw of people, it can affect negatively, like the neighborhood, if there's not ample infrastructure. Parking was one of the biggest things. And then also just being on the bayfront itself, it's allowing a lot of space for outdoor dining, and kind of adding that experience in as well.
Yeah, I think this is, we went on the tour of the Southern Corridor, and what's so cool about it, just overlooks all that work. It's such an amazing spot, being in the second floor. I've never been that high in that location. It's really cool. And I was surprised, I love that and surprised that the concrete pilings are in A-OK shape and past inspection. And I do appreciate because that's one of the places I fish out of is that you are embracing the guide fishermen that have used that spot. That's such a really important spot for them to have a dock where they can clean their fish and now possibly bring some to you guys. And you had told me that you also plan on having fresh fish delivered via water is the hope. Is that true on that?
Yeah, so we have a good connection with a couple of oyster farmers out there already, and some of the commercial clam divers out of Garibaldi who have, expressed interest in delivering directly there. So I think it would become also, commercially viable, and not just through the sport fishing, guide fishing lens. But I think it just that opportunity that the docks presents to us kind of speaks to the whole concept of the business, which is to really be a community hub that can support multiple businesses. And, we just see the benefit to our business to have all of those people operating there. I think it just adds not only to the experience for visitors, but to our stability there. And being able to receive deliveries there, like of oysters, just, compared to what other businesses have to deal with, like in Portland, for example. I mean, there's several days out of the water before, they're being used, whereas we would be using things that are delivered the day that they're harvested, which is, huge advantage in my opinion for quality.
Yeah, it reminds me kind of local ocean down in Newport where you can be sitting there eating and you're watching the fish come in the side door. I'm monopolizing this. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No,
I'm just excited about it. I'm excited about the fact that we have a county property next to it because one of the things I've talked to like TCBA about, they host they want to do seafood festivals and one of the things with that location in the summertime, it's the least busy for that program because it's a spring and fall fishing is a busy time. So if you wanted to hold some kind of an oyster fest or for that overflow or having food carts, but I'm so excited about that being a hub for the county. I'm sorry, I'm really excited about this. It's just been sitting empty and unused, underutilized, and it's such a great location.
Yeah, I appreciate your excitement and inviting these fellows in here. I have read about this project. I don't remember where the article came from, but then it was shared online. And I thought, that's really exciting. And so I drove out, I just scoped it out from my truck. So I thought I'd love a tour. And I sent it to my son in Vancouver, who's a foodie, and said, oh my gosh, look what's coming. So I'm delighted to learn more about this and excited for you. I'm excited for the economic opportunity. I'm excited for the community opportunity and how your vision builds on systems, the system of working with other local seafood harvesters, et cetera. And so I think it's a fabulous vision and there's a lot of benefit opportunity, multiple kinds of benefit opportunity. And it is a cool space and a beautiful location, and it'll be wonderful to see it in use.
And I just want to add to when we were out there talking, one of the things I really appreciate about this project is when I met with Jacob, as we were talking about, I was explaining, hey, there's some there's some visit Tillamook Coast loans, there's other opportunities, economic opportunities, and they just really were like, we just want to be a part of the community, we want to work well. They've been working great with our planning department, our health department. I know you wanted to forge that relationship. So I'm excited about this. Is kind of blue economy stuff I'd love to see more of. So thanks for coming in. Anybody have anything else anybody in the
I'm
audience?
curious, do you have a target date you'd like to open?
Yeah, we're looking at May
Oh.
of next year. Looking at hopefully wrapping up construction by the new year and then having a few months to outfit the building and get everything up and running. That's the target date as of right now. But
And the funding's all looks good and you guys are doing well with the funding and all that part of it.
we're in the middle of fundraising right now,
Okay.
but we've sponsored a portion of it to get started. We received a loan. I think we talked about that in here from Steward that helped us acquire the property. And then there's so much work to get accurate pricing that I think it's different than a normal project where you kind of might be walking into like a warm shell space that you understand basic pricing on. Our contractor now is still even working through things, and we're trying to get to a point where we know exactly what we're doing. before we go out, because it's somewhat difficult to change fundraising amounts.
Sure.
But that's something that we're really looking forward to. One of our things on our list is to join the chamber and just get involved in some more community activities. I mean, while we do have, to be honest, like we do have a list of people and contacts that we've been building that we like to reach out to invest in the project. We are also really interested in people that are from Tillamook County having an opportunity to do that. And it is something that we're working on, trying to make those connections, because our connections are, not here, to be honest. Not all of them, at least. So that's something that we're aware of and really actively working on to try and make give the community an opportunity as much as possible to also support the project or be involved in it. Because it is a significant fundraise. One of the things about these properties is that they're not only few and far between, but and incredibly complicated to get approved. I mean, Ben's been working really hard on that and his team, but also really expensive to fix up the infrastructure and bring it up to code. Because everything, we're, doing it the right way and bringing everything to compliance, and trying to make this something that lasts another 100 years.
Right. I did invite them to talk to the Economic Development Council for that. They have some grant money.
That's what I was just thinking about.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm on the Economic Development Council Board, and I don't know that you'll need a business loan, but EDC has a fund for low interest business loans, and it's just sitting there waiting for people to apply. We talk about it every month, like, do we have any new applicants? So the EDC director would be very happy to talk to you about that. And also, I was just thinking about, there's a business incentive program called the Enterprise Zone, which is currently, it's specific to certain areas. So we have an Enterprise Zone at the Port of Tillamook Bay. However, there's a movement afoot to change the structure of it so that a whole area can be an enterprise zone. So I'll ask Terry about that for you, because if that happened while you're in this process, then there would be additional opportunities available to you if you were in an enterprise zone.
Wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again for coming.
Thank you.
I'm talking to you guys.
Glad to meet you, and thank you.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for the encouragement.
Thank you both. All right. That was fun.
Yeah.
There's also the contest. I told him about that.
Yes.
But maybe next year.
Yes.
Sorry, we're a little side talk here about economic development. Come on up. The next topic of discussion is going to be about the Oregon Justice Department submittal for circuit court space and admin annex and the next steps. We have Rachel is going to present.
I'm gonna just do a quick intro, and then Mitch is gonna, I think, probably share his screen and go over the deliverables that he's provided.
Great.
So during the June 15 work session, the board requested that DLR, who we have under contract to help us plan the occupancy of the BLM building. The board requested that DLR prepare a cost estimate for a circuit court solution here in the courthouse and do a test fit of moving the clerk and assessment and tax departments to the BLM property. The request was driven in part by a July 20 deadline that this concept would be submitted to the state in consideration of potential funding in the 27 legislative session. On July 1, the board approved DLR's contract modification to change the scope, and today DLR is here to present the cost estimate that they've developed and the result of the test fit. So we do have two actions we are looking for today. One is consensus on whether to proceed with the submission to the state. And the second is a consensus on how to proceed with the remainder of the original contract scope. And if you can't reach consensus today, we can kick that to another meeting. Erin is landing soon, so we're hoping that she's going to call in. I just have a statement to read from her at the appropriate time in the meeting. But we are looking to the board on how to proceed with the remainder of the original contract scope, which was to test fit 3 groupings of county departments in the BLM. And so you have one, the clerk and the tax departments. And you can decide to proceed with designing and cost estimating that which implies that is what we are doing, or proceeding with completion of the original scope of work, which was to test fit 2 other scenarios of department groupings, and then select from one of those 3 and cost estimate that, and then decide, select one and then design and cost estimate it, and then proceed with that alternative. So with that, I will turn it over to Mitch.
Thank you, Rachel, and hi, commissioners. I'm glad we picked today for this. I ate at Jacob's Portland restaurant back in the day, so I'm really excited to find out there's a new version of it down
Nice.
there. So
That's great.
I'm gonna share my screen here and kind of talk through how we move through evaluating and cost estimating and space planning, kind of give you an idea of where we're at. So a couple weeks ago, we met for goal setting. And during that, we also received some ideas about how to utilize the first floor of the courthouse. The key part of that is if the first floor is used, here are 2 departments that would be relocated to the annex. So first step was that the circuit court provided this drawing. I think I'm sharing my screen. If I can get an affirmative for, can you guys see my screen? Great, thank you.
Yes.
This is the drawing we received from Circuit Court showing their layout of the first floor. And so, and the directive was figure out how much this costs so that it can be submitted to the state for funding. So to take this and work with our cost estimator, we need to inform the cost estimator what's being demolished, what's new, and what are some of the other assumptions that go into this. So I take this drawing and and the other piece of this was courtroom, that new courtroom on the left is intended to be a Multnomah County style modern courtroom. So this is the drawing provided in that package a couple weeks ago. This is the large style courtroom, a little over 1,600 square feet from Multnomah County Courthouse, which represents modern courtroom layout. So taking that last drawing, we clean that up to give direction to our cost estimator. This is one of the drawings provided to the cost estimator to help give direction on what assumptions they need to make when they're putting that estimate together. Lines in red are existing walls that need to be demolished. Walls in blue are the new ones. We look at this at a high level. We're not necessarily designing it or validating. Doing a renovation of a historic old building, there's lots of unknowns that go into this. At this level, what we're looking for is the egress capacity sufficient for the arrangement of spaces that are being proposed here, and are the accessible clearances going to be enough? So there were some of the corridors that were being shown before. We take a look at those and say that needs to be a little bit more, a couple more inches here and there. But otherwise, the layout that we're looking at here is the layout that the circuit court said this works for us. So we're trying to honor that as much as possible. One of the pieces that we needed to add to this was an additional stair off of the northeast corner of the building. And so that's located right up here. I'll zoom into that for a second. This stair is necessary. That would be a new opening in the wall and then an exterior metal staircase for that egress capacity. And that's based on the pathing and the egress requirements in the building code. From there, this drawing goes to cost estimator. They're also looking at level 2. So as the board of commissioners room on level 1 going up to level 2, and they take all of that and they put it together into cost estimate. So this document is 11 pages of that cost estimate. It's broken down to try to give as much transparency as possible about where those costs are. It is broken down into a construction cost, and then has some other factors on top of that to get to a full project cost. So within the construction cost itself, it's broken down into categories of the building. So interior partitions, doors, that type of thing. All of those are added up. That's what goes into the tenant improvements line item here. So there's about 10,000 square feet of renovation that would be proposed in that project, and that would be about $3.3 million. The project is then escalated to a point in the future, and it's the way that construction cost estimates work. Usually the midpoint of construction, that's looking at when the project is fully bought out by the contractor. And then after that, the soft costs, which here we're carrying 35%, which felt like a good middle ground between sometimes it's 30, sometimes it's as much as 40% for soft costs. What goes into that are design fees, permits, furniture, project administration, contingency, that type of thing. And so that adds up to the about 5.3 million for that. Some other assumptions that go into that were there's an existing fire sprinkler system in the building, extending that into this new area to accommodate for the courthouse, the courtroom renovation. Structural seismic improvements would be excluded from this cost. There are previous reports from KPFF that are all that in your hands already. Those are full building. You really can't do that just for this piece of the building. To do the seismic improvement would be kind of full building. So those costs still could be standalone, completely separate from this project. And then there's a couple other exclusions which aren't any surprise. It's just stuff that is definitely not part of the project. Security screening equipment, ADA ramps, that type of stuff, all sort of a separate project. So we're really focused in on just the drawing from Circuit Court. I was going to pivot to the annex next. Are there questions on first floor planning, how that gets translated into costs? Questions about costs I can field at this point?
I don't. We're going to need to spend a little more time to do some little tweaks, but as a proof of concept, it works.
Okay.
This plan is, as you know, amalgamation of what's been in my head for a little while. And this is, we need to make sure that it would actually work, and it does. So.
Great. So from, thank you, Judge Hill. From that plan, what we can learn is the tax assessment and clerk, that's where that stuff would be going. So let's test how that would fit in the annex. And so next page here, this drawing is a conceptual test fit of the program in the county annex. What we're looking at here is the container big enough? Does the large level adjacencies work? Can it work within this? There's more refinement in the future about does this space want to be over here? Do we want to rotate this? Does this person need to be next to this person? And the next level of kind of operational detail is in the next step or two. At this point, just trying to figure out, we've got one main public entry here. We've got two departments. How can we set up a diagram inside of the building that has the public experience coming in that main front door through the lobby, having a lobby waiting public counter area with the clerk's counters on one side, tax assessment counters on the other side, and have all of this kind of working within that building. And overall, what we found is that it does fit. And so what on the left is the clerk's office. So we're trying to utilize as much of the existing rooms that exist as possible. So some of these we need to add some county clerk office, chief deputy clerk office, that type of thing. Those would be new enclosed rooms with doors on them. And then in the middle of that space are workstations. There's about 48 square foot allocated per workstation. That's a desk and a chair and space to work. So we organize those into little pods. The bright blue that you're seeing is the circulation space. There's code minimum egress requirements for that. The occupancy of this building is still relatively low. So we're at you can get by with what those minimum clearances are for egress, for circulation within the department. What that means is that this represents from a circulation standpoint, a very efficient layout. There's not a lot of circuitous, you're not paying for a lot of circulation space within that apartment. We're just connecting all the spaces that are required. On the right side, tax and assessment. So in general, those are on the right side, county assessor and tax collector, a meeting room and chief appraiser. Those are offices with doors on them. And then just to the left of that, in between the yellow lobby, those are all workstations, kind of in that center areas organized around the appraiser work area. So all of this still completely flexible if a piece wants to move from here to here. But in general, you can start to see how those pieces work within that area. Some of the pieces that don't fit on this part of the plan are more of the storage pieces. So there's a really large county archive component of this project, 1,200 square feet of county archive, and field equipment storage, and then general storage for tax and assessor. That warehouse piece, we've just kind of placed it generally in that area just to say it can definitely fit over here. And the remaining square footage in that store in the warehouse part of the building is about 5,000 square feet. The other main piece of this, what we learned here is as you have public in your building, you need to provide a public restroom for them. Because we don't want to add public restrooms to this, to make this plan work as we're showing it, is to provide public access to the existing restroom suite. And so we would still want to provide a secure barrier between the circulation that separates the clerk from that public circulation. And so as I'll zoom in for a second here. And so on the left side of this yellow area, we would be adding some kind of separation, wall and a door, and on the right, a wall and a door separating out the tax and assessor. So those suites would be leaving that suite, accessing this middle space to use these restrooms because of the requirement to provide that public access for it. That's purely from trying to leverage as much of the existing infrastructure as possible. There's a break room on the top right that exists already, so there's a very small component of break in the space list, so that would be shared between both of those departments. But overall, that's the first pass at that. As it leaves space in the warehouse, the question is, well, is there other stuff we want to test in the warehouse as like a future phase? So we said this would be part of conceptually like phase 1 of the project, move this stuff into annex, renovate courthouse, and then in the future, could something else come out of the courthouse go into the warehouse part of it? So there's some space to test that idea. But generally, as soon as we start to see one idea, it usually sparks like, well, what if instead of this department, what if it was that department? So that's why we are carrying other options, space, time to study other options, if that came up. If it's not, if this feels right, then what we would be doing is drawing the walls, getting all of those clearances figured out, putting the furniture in there, and really vetting at the next layer of operational flow. Does this work? The other detail that's really not shown here are the transaction counters. So that would be showing up in that next phase if this one moves forward. Questions on what we're looking at from this standpoint?
Oh, it seems pretty straightforward. Thank you, Mitch.
Yeah.
I saw Cassandra raised her hand too.
Great.
Did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, I do. Okay. I don't want to jump too far ahead because I understand that this is a fit assessment to see if we can fit in there. I want you to know that I do want to go into this building. I'm very excited about actually moving and going into this. But just from an initial look at this, it seems as though it's less square footage than I have now for my staff. And just in future planning, the appraisal staff does not need, they can't be in view of the public. They need to have like a separate room So I wasn't sure if this put them out in view of the public or if this was a private space. Because if it's a private space, that looks a bit, claustrophobic. So just from what I have now, it looks like less space. So I'm just a bit
Sure.
concerned about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you could
And
help
so-
educate me on that.
Sure. To the point about the separation between lobby, public, the transaction counters that aren't showing up here yet, and that work area behind there, that's exactly the kind of feedback we're looking for. So making sure that there's a separation, that visual separation between as people walk up to those transaction counters and are interacting with somebody, that they don't have full view of all the workstations behind there. I think that's definitely something that we could look at accommodating in the space that we have here, and looks feasible. So we'll be able to study that and make sure that can be accommodated.
Mhm.
To your
So is this more or less space for all of my staff?
The existing space numbers that we have for the courthouse come from a diagram that was generated last year. So it's an estimate on what space you have now. If I provided a little markup of what we are including in that existing square footage number, the 3,700 square feet. Those spaces that I've marked on that plan are our assumptions of what spaces you have. If that's accurate and there's no adjustments to that, then we assume you have 3,700 square feet. Based on the space needs assessment that was validated a couple weeks ago, it is less space than what you have now, but it's more contiguous square space. It's also space that we want to make sure works together. So per number, if that diagram is correct of how much square footage is being allocated in the existing courtroom, existing courthouse, 3,700 square feet. If that's right, then yeah, the space list contains less square footage than what you have now. And we would, and if the space list is wrong and you need more space than what is in the space list, that's exactly the feedback that we're looking to get validated at this point, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, appraisal needs to be in a separate room away from the public. And tax would need more room to be able to assist the public. So I get that's further down the line, the tweaking, but I definitely will have changes to it.
Sure.
And I'm not sure if that's what you're looking for right now.
Yeah, I think if we move forward with this idea and show how those transaction counters work and provide that separation, that validation would be happening in the next phase. And we'll be able to really quickly understand, yeah, this isn't enough space because there actually needs to be more space to provide that circulation. So I think once we get to the next level with this, we'll be able to figure out if that can be accommodated in the square footage. The other piece of that is if you were looking at that space list and the spaces that are delineated in that report from last year do not constitute the amount of square footage that tax and assessment require, that is the feedback that's the timing of needing that feedback is right now, so that I'm planning for this much square footage. If I need to plan for that much square footage, that's perfect feedback for right now.
So you want me to go back and look at the old report and see?
Yeah, and that is what I believe you provided some feedback a couple weeks ago on that about the quantity of appraisers. So we captured that update from 8 to 9. So we have that. If there's other ones, that's looking at that report, looking at those spaces there, making sure, yep, this captures the need from that space list. And if there's a thumbs up on that, then that providing the separation and operational needs is in the next step.
Yep. Okay. Yes, because I don't see a space either for the chief deputy tax collector. So that was missing.
Mitch, regarding the lobby, the square footage of the lobby, is that an arbitrary size or is that based on? And again, I don't want to get into the weeds there. I know this was the first pass. to see if these apartments can fit in here, and we still have more space in the warehouse side. There's still 4,000 or 3,800 square feet. Anyway, but I was just wondering, I'm curious about the big yellow portion there, if that's what
Yeah.
determines the size of that, if in fact we do need to bump more space down the line in another time, would we have that space to move into?
Sure. No, that is a good question. I've from a space planning standpoint, there's a version of this that has some other bubbles in there. It implies more of a layout than exists yet. So I've actually just kind of said, oh, it's a big yellow area. What goes into that yellow area from a space planning standpoint is items from the space list. It's not an arbitrary thing. So in the space list, you'll see public, lobby / waiting. So waiting for 8 people, plat map desk, microfilm station, passport photo area. And in the assessor, we have a similar space for one is public counter, payment counter. I actually have payment counter delineated in a separate space here. It's totally separate secure space, public computer alcove, and public waiting. And so those items that exist in the space list, at this level, they all get grouped into one area just to establish this is how big the lobby area needs to be. And so that yellow marquee has the public waiting requirements from both of those departments added up. That's 200 square feet each. It's got the computer alcove square footage taken into it, so that makes it a little bit bigger. And then it's got the public counter square footage. And the public counter is a space that basically has a workstation on one side and space for somebody to stand on the other, and a counter going down the middle of it. And so that area is also taken into account within that yellow blob. Does that get to the nature of your question?
Yeah, for sure. And I just wanted to add, again, it's really hard like what we're trying to do today, but also that there are bathrooms in the warehouse section of this place too, for if employees needed their own bathrooms.
Yeah, correct.
Great.
I'm encouraged by this. I know we'll need to fine tune it if this is the direction we go, but it just seems like it seems really logical. I appreciate this design because I looked at it and I think, oh yeah, that works. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, I don't want to go into the weeds of some of the things we were talked about, but I appreciate the work that was done.
Happy to get in the weeds with everybody involved in this piece. If we move forward to that next piece, I think, a meeting to get some of that feedback. I would want to get some of those details in there first for you guys to react to, get a better understanding of exactly the kind of separation that Cassandra you're talking about, and then be able to have a work session on that.
Yeah, what I would like to see happen, depending on which way we go, and I would like to see if we decide to do this, whatever, a task team or work team, or work group, whatever we want to do. I don't care if I'm on it. I don't need to be on it. I think you brought up a good point. I think that but I want whichever departments may be moved need to be, as you know, and I'm just vocalizing it because I'm concerned Sandra's afraid we're going to leave Sandra's office out and it's not going to happen, or that we're not going to discuss the drive-through if that's a part. Like all the things that have been discussed, there'll be another time to do that if we decide to go forward, and that would be done in this work group with DLR, correct?
Sure.
Yeah. So I am curious when's the proper time to hear what Erin has to say, if this is.
Whenever, yeah, I'm not really sure what the cadence of this discussion is gonna be, but I can add it whenever. I don't know. I did see it actually does look like she's on. And before that, there is one thing I just caught from the single view outline. The relocation of the offices on the first floor, clerk and tags, but it's also Brian's office. So we don't have a place identified for where he would be.
Would he go upstairs possibly if according to we would get your other office?
You would. You might want to put a door in that so that you can go from your hallway into that space and have a secure entrance into the commissioner meeting room.
No, just.
I was assuming that you.
See, Brian, I already told him I'm putting him right next to me. And that's where that door would be.
Yeah.
We would find it, just like Sandra, we would find a place for Brian, but I think it's a good point to bring up.
Okay, so Yeah, so I just, I'm not even on. So Aaron, it sounds like this might be a time for you to weigh in. Are you at a place where you can give your comments, or would you like me to read what you shared?
So, hi, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I'm standing at baggage claim, so forgive me if there's other extra noise. So I have missed the entire conversation, so I don't know what's already been said or not been said, so it's a little awkward to jump in with comments. So can somebody give me a thumbnail sketch of the conversation and what perhaps consensus is appearing to be in the room?
So Aaron, the summary is Mitch presented the materials that you've received. Judge Hill conveyed that as a proof of concept, it works for circuit court. Commissioner Bell and Commissioner Fournier expressed encouragement about how the layout for tax and clerk, while certainly needs some tweaks, at an initial pass looks like it could work. And I think that's where we are.
And then I was asking for your
Okay.
input.
Sure. So I had some questions just around, I guess, the funding and around in terms of committing us to submit this to the state, what that really means. Because this is outside the AOC process, so I'm not sure what funding we're going for. I'm not sure if they're like, because this was $5 million on the back of them, on our best estimate. Do they give us all of that? And if the cost goes up, do they give us more? And is there any match? So the concept is fine with me, but I'm just curious about the details of funding we're applying for and what we're committing to in putting our name in the hat. Because if we have the flexibility to move things around, and if they're going to cover the whole cost, I'm like, put our name in the hat. But I think I need to understand a little more.
I appreciate that. I have the same concerns.
So this is Judge Hill. With me is Allison Underwood, our court supervisor, but I also have invited Kimberly McCullough, who is our Oregon Judicial Department. She's part of our government relations team, and so she would be who would essentially help kind of move this through the process. The idea is that the Chief Justice, we have a budget for the Oregon Judicial Department, and my budget is part of that. There is the remodel budget where the state can do a half of a match, okay? And so it would be $2,650,000 on that. The only change to, and it's not a change, to the diagram is where we had said attorney meeting room, and it just says office and DLRs. That will probably have to, well, not probably, we'll have to offer it to the Office of Public Defense Services first to see if they want to have someone in there. We don't have anyone locally for that, so I don't anticipate it, but it would have to be offered for that. So that's one option, is the match program, and this would get included in the OJD budget for that half. The county would have to figure out their half. There's also the possibility, and I haven't discussed this with you all, but it's something that I've been exploring, of asking for a general fund ask to fund the whole project. Now that would be what we would need to do today is if you are committing to it, is I'll meet with the Chief Justice next week, and Kimberly and Christopher will be back, and Nancy Kozine is the state court administrator, to do the match number, okay? And that would be included. What I'm exploring to kind of meet with you all a little bit more is, could we do a general fund ask? That's a heavier lift. And Kimberly, could you speak to that and the two processes a little bit? I know I'm kind of put you on the spot because I asked you about this yesterday.
No worries at all. Commissioners, my name is Kimberly McCullough. I'm Senior Counsel for Government Relations at the Oregon Judicial Department, and appreciate you having me here today with Judge Hill. And so there are essentially two different pathways that that a county can go down with requesting funds through the Chief Justice's recommended budget for renovations. As Judge Hill indicated, there is a a general fund request option, and then the second request that requires matching funds is or a 50% match is a bond funding option. That bond funding just became available this year for renovations from the legislature because of an amendment to our bond funding statutes that happened. If you go the route of bond funding, it is a 50-50. The county has to provide 50% of the courthouse project, and the state provides 50%. As Judge Hill mentioned, there is a co-located state agency requirement. So a state agency has to be given the option to have some space in the courthouse. If the district attorney is located in the courthouse, then the policy is to offer that space to the Office of Public Defense Services, who generally open that space up to local public defense providers. There's also a requirement that the entire courthouse meet safety and security standards of the Chief Justice. If you go a general fund route, there is no match requirement. And there's no co-located agency requirement. There's no specific requirements around, getting the entire courthouse up to snuff as far as safety and security standards. That said, I will say that there is a greater likelihood of success at the legislature if the county is willing to offer some amount of matching funds, but there's no hard and fast rule about what that percentage is. But the county having a little bit of skin in the game is helpful for convincing the legislature to allocate funding. So those are the two routes that you can go. Just so you know a little bit about where we are in our process. We work with the Association of Counties to put together our requests. Obviously, that process has already happened. Tillamook County did submit a request through the AOC process for it's like the roof repair, HVAC, and water repair.
And ADA.
And you're right, and the ADA access, and that was prioritized fairly high by the Association of Counties. And we have had a conversation with them about the fact that this is a new opportunity that is coming up after that process is over. So I think there is still the opportunity for you to get in the Chief Justice's recommended budget with this new project. And we are required to submit numbers to the Legislative and Fiscal Office for what's going to go into the Chief Justice's recommended budget by the end of this month. So the closer we are to having some clarity, the better of what the request is. That said, we can always change the amount of the request as we move through the legislative session. We can update the legislature with, okay, the amount, here's what the amount actually is. I will say it's sometimes easier to start with a higher number and whittle it down a little bit. So maybe overshooting a little bit is good, and then we can adjust down. But if we did need to adjust up, that's also something we can do when we do our budget presentations and in our conversations with legislators. So hopefully that helps to clarify things for you.
Kimberly, if the commissioners hypothetically were asking for the general fund and then decide to switch over to the match remodel, can we do that, or we need to make that decision now?
I would say it's better to make that decision sooner than later, to make that decision now, but we can change things as we get closer to session and during session. But it's sort of better to get them our closest guess sooner than later.
Kimberly, I have a question for you. Thank you for that. That was great. Would our the fact that we're moving two large departments to a new location and the relocation costs of that, would that be considered match or skin in the game to the state, since we're giving them space that we currently occupy? So would that expense be considered match?
Right, that for the bond funding, it unfortunately would not qualify for a match, but for general funds, I think we could go to the legislature, and because there's not like an
Sure.
official matching requirement, it isn't a thing that we could go to the legislature and say, look, they just spent all of this money, and they're going to be spending money to move folks out of these spaces. That is helpful for us to be able to like say to them, look, there is a county expense. It's not technically a match under the bond program, but it is the county spending money that is related to the project.
Okay, thank you for that. And Aaron, I want to give you an opportunity to chime in because these were answers to your addressing some of your questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. With what I've just heard, I would go for general fund ask. I don't think the county at this point has the opportunity to come up with that kind of cash. So that's concerning to me. So general fund would be at least everything I've heard so far my suggestion. My other question is timing. If this goes into the budget for 27, obviously we still have departments occupying these spaces. We are looking at the annex. What does that take, et cetera? Is there a chance that we could get awarded this funding but not be able to use it because of timing? So when would we be awarded? When would we have to complete this courthouse construction?
So the general funds are generally available sooner than the bond funding. And usually what we do is with general funds, we transfer the money to the county under an intergovernmental agreement. And then the money has actually been transferred during the biennium. And then the county essentially can draw down on those funds after submitting receipts to the state and getting approval of those receipts. With the bond funding, the bonds are generally sold at the end of the biennium, so they wouldn't, and those bonds can be used to reimburse costs that, and I hope I'm getting this correctly, they're to reimburse costs that were spent before and after the bond funding. There's some timing requirements there. I'd need to talk to our budget office to get the real specifics on that. But I guess the overall answer from both of those there is that, if there is some time that it takes for the project to go underway, I think that it should be workable under either the bond funding or the general funds. But I could get back to you all with more specifics about that after talking to our budget folks.
That would be helpful. I think Tillamook County has had a number of fits and starts, as we all know, in trying to solve this problem. And I think one of my areas of concern is losing all credibility with the state. If we were to be fortunate to be awarded a general fund ask of over $5 million, and then to discover that, well, you have 24 months period to spend it, knowing that we need to remodel the annex to an appropriate space for our staff that are moving, and then remodel the first floor. So I'm just concerned that we are going too soon and we can't utilize this funding. We just once again walk away from the state with egg on our face. So this is an important question to me.
Absolutely. I'm just looking at, we had one of our other projects with another county. I know that we had funding that was allocated in 2023, and the county still has not spent that funding. But the reason that that's okay is because we did this arrangement with the general funds where we transferred it to the county within the biennium that it had been allocated, and entered into that intergovernmental agreement. So I believe with the general funds, there's quite a bit of flexibility there.
Great news.
Perfect. For me, that's another check toward the general fund as our ask, because the flexibility I think will be important just because there's so many moving parts on this.
Well, Aaron, I appreciate you bringing that up. That's really good information to clarify. I also lean towards the general fund. We don't have the money. This is going to be the best option, especially with the expense that we're going to have moving.
I also support the general fund ask, and I'm very encouraged, Kimberly, by the idea that we can present to the legislature, or you can present for us the purchase price of the BLM building and the yet to be determined price. Hopefully we could get it together soon, of the of the remodeling of that building. Because we purchased this building in order to create space for circuit court, and we'll have to remodel it in order to move these departments out so circuit court can have the space. So so if both of those expenses can count as our real match, that would be fabulous.
So hypothetically, and I can't, and as you know, I've tried very hard not to, give any opinion on who you guys move out, because I don't think I get an opinion. But hypothetically, if you move out tax assessor and clerk, if you can it would be helpful, because we're all going to need to go to legislature and say, this is what we've got. And, hypothetically, even you did a light remodel of, paint and carpet, if we delineate the county, we delineate all of these costs, the cost of moving, the cost of whatever the renovation is, the cost of the building. When Kimberly and our government relations team goes in, and frankly, the commissioners and myself and Rachel go to talk with the legislature. Well, I don't think, Kimberly, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not a match for a general fund ask, but it shows that the county is putting in money. I think you skin in the game, so it's sort of a match.
Right.
And I think that could be really helpful to our position. The more that can get done, I mean, we're talking about a year from now for end of long session. So again, I think the county has to decide who you're going to move out, and if you have another 5,000 square foot there, how to use that additional square footage. So I'm think how I can actually say this. You all have been very mindful of our county and our budgetary constraints and trying to make the most of that. I think both of these projects, the BLM and this one, might be time to look at what you guys have heard me say all the time, which is the art of the possible. It might be a situation where we're looking at the BLM building as well. We need to look at the good not being the perfect not being the enemy of the good. And so I think Ms. Larson had some really good points. There might be ways of doing these things in those conversations for less dollars than feared. If that makes sense, what I'm saying.
It does.
Okay.
And I'm encouraged also, Kimberly, that the ask that we've already made through AOC can proceed also, because it's a significant, those things, the roof, of course, which we need, but also the ADA access, et cetera, are significant contributors to circuit court. So that package together, if we got those and this remodel, it would be amazing.
And you all know the access to justice, and it affects everyone in the courthouse as far as the ADA access. And so I'm really excited about that one. HVAC and the roof are kind of stuff. I mean, all three we've just got to do. So what I hear is that Rachel will get a hold of, I guess, Kimberly, and we'll meet next week as well. And we'll do well, I don't know. I think all three of you are saying general fund, so I don't know if that's consensus. I want
to talk to you. So as the conversation is progressing, where are we at with direction, and where are we at with what do you hope to accomplish here today with Mitch? And
so looking for direction from the board on how to proceed with the submittal, which needs to go in on. Yeah, it's and done. And I would just add that around the topic of matching using the building, I don't think we're talking about that, but just to get on the record, we are purchasing the building with Oregon bond financing.
Rachel, is your microphone on? I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry, Erin. We are purchasing the building with bond bank financing. That isn't money that we have to fully use as match. And I would question that would even be eligible. And so any match that we want to officially pledge as official match, but I don't think that's the path we're going down, or show that we are
Yeah.
paying, would be payments that we're making or any of the relocation costs.
That's a good point.
I have authority in your adopted policy to proceed with grant applications. This would be, in my mind, a grant application from the county.
Is that
And so-
right, Kimberly? We can have it sent to you. Who does Rachel sent the letter to?
What's the next
The-
step if we decided to go to general fund?
If you do want to make the request to the legislature, is that the question? Who do you send that information to?
Yes.
Yeah, you can send that to me.
And that needs to be done by Monday? Is that correct?
If it's possible to get that by the end of next week, that would be great, because I'll be out after the 24th. But if for some reason there was a delay, then David Moon and my office will be here the week following.
So I think we can talk offline about what that submittal
Looks
entails. Looking for a thumbs up from you today to do that, and then I could proceed as needed in moving that through. So that's the first question.
Okay, Aaron, I can't see your thumb, so. Are you a thumbs
I
up?
can't raise my thumb. No, it sounds like we're working through that. I think my other question is, if we do this, we are successful, how comfortable are we with the 5.2 million number or whatever that was? Because if it ends up being 8, now we're in the same ballpark we've always been. So I think
Right.
as we're looking at actually submitting a letter, actually submitting a dollar amount, I know that in looking at the numbers, the DLR built in an escalation for the year over year. Are we comfortable? Because I heard Kimberly say, start bigger, if we have to go smaller, it's better. Whereas if we start at our best hope, we're gonna have to value engineer the heck out of it, and then nobody's gonna.
I would agree. Kimberly's nodding her head yes, and I heard her say that, and I would recommend that we do that as well.
But are you suggesting that we ask for more than the DLR estimate? Don't we have to submit the DLR estimate?
I'm asking, I think DLR to give us a worst case scenario estimate, given that what we've seen in the last 5 years with escalation of costs. It's hard to know what that number would be, but a worst case scenario, and maybe that's what we already have in front of us. I missed that part of the presentation.
I'm wondering if Kimberly and Rachel can talk a little bit, because would that be helpful? Because I would end up asking our government relations team, which is Kimberly's a part of.
Yeah, I'm happy to work with her offline to
Sure.
get the breast submittal.
Yeah, and I would just say now the suggestion of getting an estimate from DLR about sort of what's the good buffer would make sense.
Thank you. Yeah, so Rachel can work with Mitch on that. He did provide the escalation buffer, but maybe the buffer could be bigger. I don't know.
So they can work on that offline.
Okay, this is encouraging.
Yes,
Yes,
I think you
thank
got the
you.
direction on that part.
On that part, yep.
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay, and then the next part is,
You're welcome to stay for the next part, Judge, but you don't have to.
Thank you, Allison, for coming in. Good to see you.
I might step out. I do need to bring up the Friday issue.
Please do.
So we have the first part of the training. Remember, we're doing one August 21st, active shooter training like we did last year. This year we have the marshals coming in, and I think you all are having the county staff go to that as well. In morning, it's all classroom. Afternoon, there's the leadership tabletop. Christopher's out this week. Allison will be leading it and organizing it, but we would need, I'm closing the circuit court in the morning. And my understanding is the county was going to close Friday morning. So I think we need to do a press release on that. And as far as coordinating with you, everybody just go to 102, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay. So, sorry, I went.
I think it was 8:30.
Okay. So 8:30 on Friday, when the doors open and it's classroom stuff in the morning. Okay.
And you're thinking of just closing for the circuit for
Yeah.
the morning? To noon or to 1?
Well, I closed us, but as far as the whole building, yeah, I'll probably close from 8 to noon. The tabletop thing, what are we doing that?
2 o'clock.
At 2,
And we're working on a press release. We're still about a month out or so months.
French.
Well, I think he's talking for this Friday.
This Friday?
Yeah, there's 2.
Oh, this Friday.
There's 2. So, but we need the leadership this Friday from 2 to like 3:30 for the tabletop exercise in the afternoon. So mornings classes, that's everybody, just the leadership. And I think we were talking, is that department heads too? Do we?
That's not courthouse closure.
In the morning.
It is mornings courthouse closure. And then the 21st August, that's the one like last year where we'll have both marshals and sheriff's office, Oregon Judicial Department marshals.
Because we wanted everybody to be able to go to the classroom exercise in the morning this Friday.
Understood, but I guess I wasn't thinking everybody would be and that some services would still be open.
All right, well, appreciate y'all. Anything else? No. All right, well, can I slip out that side?
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you both.
Judge, is that your pen?
That is.
All right, thank you. Thank you both. Okay, Rachel.
So we are now need to talk about if we are moving full speed ahead with this scenario, or if you would like DLR to walk the county to go backwards to where we left off before we added this additional path on, which may be the path, and continue down the path of looking at other alternatives. And just now that this path is in motion, I think that I would recommend that the board talk about moving full speed ahead with a solution, tax and clerk, with all of our eggs in this ask of the state, which seems like it's a more risky option opposed to the one with the match. And what happens if we walk down that path? We don't have the funding, and we've spent all this time on engineering the one alternative to partially fill the building. And then we're left with maybe 2 dead ends at that point. So that's a caution, just if you'd like to discuss that, but starting that conversation.
Yeah, well, I would be concerned about that as well. Is Erin still on? As part of Erin's comments related to this, that she might want to chime in? I guess she couldn't have predetermined that this was going to happen.
No, couldn't have. But we did have the question from Mitch in the email about did we want to just pursue this one or did we want to look broader? And I realize timing is really difficult for this, but I do feel like this building opportunity, we're going to get to do this once in the next probably 20 or 30 years. And I guess I would hope we might be able to run 2 paths in our initial planning here to look at, what does it look like if the state says yes, how close to being ready to go can we afford to be on that if they say yes? And can we look at if the state says no, what is the best possible solution for the use of this space if the state says no? What would have the best plan have been? That's really where I would wish we could be, is to go and just really look at what is the very best plan for all the space, and then work from there. So I guess I think if we could run both pathways, would my desire. I realize there's cost in there that we probably have not planned.
Well, we do have, we've already built into the DLR contract phases to consider other options. So we don't, we're not limited to just considering this option. We can consider other options. It seems to me like because we're full speed ahead on the general fund ask, we definitely should flesh out this option. And along with that, I would like to see us figure out, can we fit Randy into emergency management into the storage area where not as a full-blown EOC in this phase, but just is there room for him there?
So to clarify the scope was to come up with, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mitch, 3 scenarios that look like this.
Oh,
You pick one, he designs it and does a very detailed cost estimate that's ready to go to bid on.
mhm.
Just confirming we're talking the same thing. You
Yeah.
just said further
Yeah.
designing that. That would be a different, not that we can't use the same money, but that's a different scope than was original.
Okay, maybe I misunderstood because I thought that the scope was various scenarios, like various departments, this one or other departments.
Correct, but at the level, 3 scenarios at this level,
Gotcha. Yeah, okay.
not designed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what Mitch
we-
was talking with Cassandra about, like really fine tuning who's where, and this is what we're gonna
Okay,
estimate.
I see.
So
And
the
the
question
first
maybe
one-
is.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Oh,
Mitch.
sorry. The first one looks like it fits really well because it does fit really well. We have
Mhm.
3 in there because if we said, well, what if it looks like if we take these 3 departments and the diagram would have showed you, this is awful. There's way not enough space. It's going to be really inefficient. It's not going to meet everybody's needs. Let's test something else. And we would test another permutation of them. The fact that we're seeing a pretty good fit off that first one, it certainly feels like may not necessitate it. So that was the genesis of why we're planning for looking at 3 of those options at a high level before we proceeded with one of them.
Thank you.
And I would like to see us, if we're going to proceed with the clerk and assessor one, which makes sense to continue to do that, how do we use the rest of the space? It bothers me to think that we're just going to let it sit vacant when we have this opportunity to determine, is there I mean, Randy's fine, and I don't think he'll take the whole space. So I would like to see a full usage of the square footage, solving as much of our problem as we can in one of our scenarios.
So I still sometimes feel like I'm still trying to grasp, and I think you are too. We're trying to figure out what we're talking about. But my question, Rachel and Mitch, is we originally talked about 2 other options, including this one to explore. Is that correct?
No, we originally talked about 3 options.
Sure.
Now you have one.
Yes.
Do you want to go full speed ahead on this and put all your eggs in this basket? Or do you want to keep this one, like, put it on pause for now? Let Mitch and his team work with us to identify 2 other scenarios, groupings, so he can do this again.
My question was, did I misunderstood? Because I thought he just said the reason why this one looks so good is the other 2 won't look as good.
I didn't know that at the time.
But now we do.
Perhaps if this is the one path with not a full building.
I guess the bigger question too that I think that I need, and I agree with what Aaron's saying, but my question is, if the grant and general fund thing doesn't happen anyway, right? We don't get the money. Is this still the best option for utilizing that space? That's really the question that I have is, and I think that's what you want to determine.
And
With the time constraints, so how do we do that?
so you're not gonna know that, I don't believe, until you run other scenarios. This is so many millions of dollars. And as Aaron was saying, it's kind of a once in a lifetime run at this. But the amount of money we're talking about and what DLR was scoped to do, to spend another month and a few $1,000s to come up with those, to answer that question, is what the original path was.
Sure.
And so I don't think it hurts to just do that, to check that box, or it identifies something else that's a backup plan, because maybe there's 4 other departments that go over there, and if the general fund doesn't realize, you got that to pull off the shelf and run with, or it does realize and you stay on that path. I don't think it's wasting money.
Okay, I appreciate that. I have no problem with doing that. I have no problems with us saying, let's explore what 3, this one, obviously, I think this works. I think Mitch thinks this works. I think we can make it work, but I agree with you. It's like, if this other thing falls through and we don't have to move them, that's not necessarily something we're doing. If we've already planned on doing it, I have no problem finding out that answer. So me personally, I'm fine in that direction.
I agree. I'd like one of the alternate scenarios to be community development, just so that if we don't get any money from the state to do this, we can pivot to, okay, well, we could save a lot of money moving community development over there. I don't remember if that was on the list. I think it was.
It kind of, I'd have to look back at my notes. I thought it was off the list last time, but I think there's a lot of scenarios to talk about. What I'm looking for, and I'm not expecting like which one. So if you go back to the last meeting, one of the questions was what's in and what's out to give them sideboards. We're going to pick up where that left off.
Yeah, I think I added community development at that point.
Okay, so so Mitch, we will work on, well, I think, and I see your hand up, Cassandra. Let me just say one thing. So basically, we are going to continue down. We're going to have 2 parallel paths. One is the OJD track, and then the second track is the track that we were on, which we did the goal setting. We got through that in that meeting. The next meeting was planned to be what's in and what's out. And so that's where we will strategize on how that Mitch can facilitate that conversation for us. So leaving that meeting, you all have determined what's in. You just had a community development, maybe some, and then we know emergency management, what's not in. We would go through that conversation. So Mitch and his team have some marching orders on bringing back to us some ideas of groupings.
Maybe I'm confused. I thought we did that in that first meeting.
No.
Okay, all right.
No, we got through goal setting and the board the board decided to just move forward with the circuit court solution and tax and assessment. That's what was decided at the very last meeting. Yeah.
And did Aaron chime in specifically on what we're talking about right now?
Yeah, Aaron, did you get all that? Does that make sense to you?
It did. It does make sense. I think you all restated more clearly what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Great.
Cassandra, did you still have a question?
More just a comment, because I just want to make sure that I'm being clear that I do want to work towards moving to that building. But the way that layout is, I just don't think it's going to be adequate to fit that many appraisers in that small of a space. So personally, I would like to see what would happen if we had the whole building. Just going to throw a little kink in there for you.
So
That's not a lot of, that's just not a lot of space for 2 departments, half of the building. So I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, you know, while I'm looking forward to working through this, I just don't know that half of that is going to be enough space when you really think about 15 people sitting in half the building, if that would be adequate. That's all.
Thank you. Well,
Yep.
I would hope and expect that there would be the opportunity to flesh out all your concerns when we get to
Okay.
that phase with Mitch. And, you know, just looking at this myself, I'm thinking there's redundant space in here, I think. I don't know this for a fact, but like there's a great big elections room. And how often is that actually used? And could it be used for meeting room? You know, so I would think that there would be flexible options here.
I guess
Yeah.
when I
I
got
hope
this
so
and-
too.
I guess when I got this and I heard Mitch, I assumed all of that.
Yeah.
Also, there's other space in the back that hasn't been accounted for yet. So I feel like
Okay.
at this step, all those things, there will be opportunity, which is why I specifically called out the task team that's going to be the process of doing this is that.
Yeah.
But it
Okay.
sounds to me like if you account for all the space over there, they both will fit in some configuration.
Yeah.
Just not maybe this one.
And Cassandra,
Okay.
what I think I heard Mitch say was that this design represents what you said you needed in the space assessment. So maybe go back and check that out, or maybe you already have. And
Okay.
let us know if your thought of your space assessment ideas are different now.
Thank you. I just don't want to walk away from today and think, oh, I should have said something, you know? So
Oh,
thank
no,
you.
I'm glad you spoke
Yeah.
up. Yeah, and concerns are totally reasonable.
Okay. I agree.
Okay, so I think Mitch, I'll connect with you in the next couple days to talk about next steps and how to move this forward.
Okay, that
Right.
sounds good.
Okay, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Mitch.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
My other question that I should have asked when Kimberly was on was, would we need the cost estimate for this to be able to make the pitch to the state for the general fund ask, like, this is how much it's going to cost the county to remodel that building in order to move the departments out?
So,
And when?
yeah, so my takeaway was this is not actual match. So it's not required. And we wouldn't need that information until you're testifying at the legislature, which would be next spring.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
It's just a concept of we have to relocate. We won't know the numbers and the remodel prices until we get that
Okay.
close. All right.
And that's good because we couldn't get those numbers by next Friday.
Right.
So that would,
Fair enough.
Exactly, exactly.
And thank you for expediting this project, Mitch. Appreciate it.
good. I'm glad it's helpful. Thank you.
Rachel, do you have everything you need?
I do, thank you.
Aaron, I know you'd like to continue on your work. Do you have anything you want to add or any more comments or questions?
I don't think so. My understanding is that Rachel and Mitch we're gonna work offline, so we'll get on our schedule the next conversation shortly about which departments and just moving this forward.
Yes.
And where are you now, Erin?
I have now taken a taxi ride through the streets of New Orleans, and I'm in the lobby of my hotel. Jim is my tour guide right now.
That's fantastic.
I didn't hear the place.
New Orleans.
Oh, New Orleans, fabulous.
She's there for the National Association of Counties annual meeting.
Wonderful.
She's representing our county at the national level and representing AOC at the national level. So,
Wonderful.
all right, we'll have a great time. We're going to adjourn this in a second. If there's nothing else, any good of the order? Okay, well, with that, I will adjourn, unless you have anything else, I will adjourn this meeting at 3:26.